everyone, welcome. My name's Charlie, and today we're getting back on Quinoa for our 8th month in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Like always, I had a couple goals in mind for this month, which included getting rid of my 2 worst villagers and replacing them with some lovely dreamies, completing the creepy gyroid room in my house, as well as starting and finishing another big build for our island. Now with all that out of the way, let's get right into it. As we jumped in on day 1, I started working on a build I'd been planning for a while, which was Lolly's Sushi Restaurant. I began by ordering a couple simple panels that we'd use as the walls and realized that I'd made my 100th Nook shopping order. I have a problem. Something pretty cool too is, as a reward, I was given access to the Nook shopping app from my phone. Wasn't super handy, but I just felt like I moved up a social class, you know? And it was at this moment that I began looking through my phone, looking through my Nook Mile tasks, and decided to set what is possibly the most ambitious goal I've ever had on Quinoa. I wanted to collect every single Nook Mile stamp before I finished my island. Quite a task, I know, and if I wanted a chance to get it done, I knew I needed to start working on them right away. To begin with, I realized that I only needed one more coffee to get the Come Home to Roost stamp, so I headed there for my daily cup. In my mind, I essentially want to go for the equivalent of Animal Crossing perfection and get as close as possible to 100%ing the game, so the Nook Mile stickers weren't the only big task I had on my plate. There was also this little patch of flowers to deal with. I'd been deliberating over what to do with them for a while, and given that it was Pride Month, I thought it would be super cute to do a rainbow flower display in front of Town Hall using every single flower type and color. And you know, you'd think I'd have them all already given the sheer magnitude of my flower problem, but there were still about 12 types I had yet to get, so that would be another thing to work on throughout the month. And with the goal of completing every Nook Mile stamp alone, I was committing myself to a rough time. There was just so much to get done. I had to make a massive spreadsheet of all the tasks just to keep track, and started chipping away at them one by one. The first ones I worked on were catching 5 wasps in a row and simultaneously trying to shake 50 items out of the trees on my island. I thought they'd be the easiest of the bunch, however, after shaking every single tree on the island, I only managed to catch a single wasp, so this was definitely gonna take a bit. To recover from the physical and emotional toll of this task, I initiated a group stretching session, and I wish I filmed it, but for every stretching session I did from this point on, I was literally standing up out of my chair, strapping up and doing the stretches in real life. Like, I needed it. For my health. And I mean, if I'm gonna do this 50 times for the stamp, I might as well get some light exercise in along the way. But tree shaking was still priority number 1, and on my very first tree of day 4, I ended up getting stung, breaking my streak. I mean, it was a streak of 1, but I was still devastated, okay? Only this cucumber horse could lift my spirits. The mission to get every single stamp was already going poorly, so I decided to shift gears a bit and continue decorating the island. And for those who remember from previous episodes, I'd been planning a little ice cream shop next to the farm for a while, so I got to work on that. To start off, I added these new tile floors, which just gave a really fun, whimsical vibe, and rearranged the ice cream machines, making it easier to move through the area. It wasn't even that much work, but it really did a lot. After making some decent progress on the ice cream shop, I went to the KK concert that night all alone, which seemed fitting for some reason. I told him I was feeling a little blue, and it was a lovely concert, don't get me wrong, but honestly I was mostly seeing KK because I had to go for the Nook Mile stamps. All in all, I would need to attend KK's concerts 100 times in total, and so far I'd seen less than 10, so many more concerts to attend. While I was doing my chores the next morning, I ran into Poppy, who told me she wanted to make a new special greeting for when we saw each other, so without hesitation, I suggested this gem. Perfect. Riding on the high of this absolute zinger, I went ahead and bought a couple hundred turnips at 91 bells a piece. Although my last experience with the stock market went horribly wrong, I wasn't gonna let my investment rot again, and I was super excited to see that turnip prices had actually risen for the first time ever. I wish that was a joke. I seized the opportunity and cashed in for a profit of about 41,000 bells, which isn't that much, but it's more than I've ever gotten. And the good news would only continue, because as I was shaking trees for my wasp hunt, I noticed that Flora had a scrumptious little thought bubble. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Get out of here. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm such a happy hot dog. And although I broke my wasp catching streak a couple minutes later and passed out literally right after, I was still a happy hut dog. Flamingo-less, at last. It was absolutely heartbreaking to say our goodbyes the next day.
I won't remember you.
But I numbed the pain by doing some sketchy art shopping at Red's, and I don't know if anyone else cares about this, but I find it super annoying that Red can still sell you genuine paintings after you've already donated the real one to the museum. How are there multiple real versions? Like, are you telling me that in the world of Animal Crossing, there's an infinite amount of Mona Lisas? Like, what? Not only does this render all art worthless, but I still have 20 odd pieces to collect, and it's making my life incredibly hard. At the same time, though, nothing could overshadow my sheer delight for Flora's departure, so I got my Nook Mile tickets ready, and on day 10, we embarked on another dreamy hunting adventure with the singular goal of getting Doc on the island. 3 hours and a lot of questionable methodology later, we stumbled across the lovely Doc. I don't think a dreamy hunt has ever gone so well in the history of dreamy hunting. I did a dedicated video on it because I had a super fun time, so you should definitely check it out. We took a celebratory photo together, and I just couldn't have been more excited to have him on our island. With Doc moved in the next day, I decided to pay him a visit and make sure he was moving in okay. The outside of his house is incredibly cute. He's incredibly cute. I love Doc so much. It's unreal. I spent the rest of the day completing various tasks for Nook Mile stamps, returning some communicator parts to Gulliver, doing some deep sea diving, and drinking a coffee at the Roost. With Doc now on the island, I began the ritual of gifting him an iron wall lamp every single day in the hopes of getting his portrait, but unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. I did catch him a butterfly though, which he seemed to enjoy, and followed that up with, you'll never guess, another group stretching session, everybody. It's just so good. And I mean, for helping everyone on the island exercise more consistently, I was sent a dumbbell in the mail. Not sure the logistics of that, but I was quite pleased. A couple bicep curls later, and I headed to the airport to send a couple letters, which was yet another cumbersome Nook Mile task we had on the list. I sent out a welcome to Doc, a hi to Fauna, a hey bud to Bill, a tomorrow is the night whence our dark fruits come to bear. Join us, brother, upon the dawn of the never-ending night, and lay bare in the tides of virtue and glory, to Lucky, and a hey buddy to Wolfgang. After sending off those lovely letters, I went on my first cabin tour in a very long time, and actually found my first shooting star island. I'd never seen one of these before, and spent probably 30 minutes wishing on them all, accidentally getting a stamp for 30 wish stars in the process. Only another 170 to go. I walked along the beach the next day collecting all my star fragments and got back on the gyroid grind, adding some more friends to the creepy gyroid room and bringing us a little closer to completing one of our monthly goals. This resulted in me getting the final stamp for Hoard Reward with 150 furniture items in my home. But I mean, is this considered hoarding? I think it's art, honestly. And we were actually super close to finishing it up, so I resolved to spend the next couple days doing nothing but collecting gyroids and gifting Doc. It also felt like a good time to change my outfit, and after some deliberation, I opted for this ant outfit. I am the mother ant, and my gyroids are my colony. The outfit didn't do much for me though, because Doc was still holding off on that portrait and just went back to sweeping the grass like nothing had even happened. I kept at it though, making it my daily mission to deliver an iron wall lamp to Doc, and although I failed miserably every single time, the silver lining was that the gyroids that had been stewing were ready to harvest. After a quick house remodel, which really just entailed changing the color of my door, I decided to stretch 7 whole times in an attempt to get the stretch to refresh sticker, only to realize afterward that it counted by day. So I basically wasted like an hour of my life, which was nice. Day 20 brought more failure and useless clothing from Doc, but since it was a rainy day and being an ant was not weather appropriate, I had a little costume change before enjoying a cup of coffee at the Roost. In other news, I'd also dug up this literal dinosaur poop, and that's always a welcome sight in my life. And speaking of poop, Tammy was still looking a bit too content on the island, so I gave her a piece of my mind. I just really really wish she would leave. Later that day, Doc asked me if I had any dreams, like what I'd want to become in the future, so I told him I wanted to be Al's worst nightmare. And he was incredibly supportive, even said he'd be rooting for me. It's just so nice to have such encouraging friends. I love Doc. Still only gave me a Zen cushion instead of his portrait, but we're working on it. But all these shenanigans were just a distraction from the problems occurring on the island. For starters, the white door I remodeled looked terrible. The villager at the campsite wasn't much better, and Tammy was still in my life, which was just unfortunate. As if things couldn't get any worse, when I went to visit Doc for his daily iron wall lamp, he sneezed on me. Wow, thank you. This is just what I needed. I'm not sure if rabbit elbows can even reach their mouths, like anatomically speaking, but please, some sneezing etiquette. Thankfully, I'm a benevolent and forgiving soul, so I brought him some medicine, and even this act of selfless generosity didn't get me a portrait, but instead a garbage can and a tea room wall. Angrily, I changed my door back to a normal color and then scowled at Tammy for a while, who still looked far too happy. Oh god, she spotted me. Run! Following that harrowing experience, I changed my front door back to its original color and was dubbed a remarkable remodeler, which was nice, I guess. More surprisingly though, as I was doing my daily chores, I ran into Poppy. Oh my god, I was not expecting that. I just absolutely Oh, Poppy, what have I done? Literally no fiber of my being was expecting that, but that's probably the greatest thing that I've ever done on this island. Like, hands down. I was pretty happy with how the island was coming together in terms of decoration, but there were still some empty areas and some things that I needed, so I took a cabin tour later that day to gather more materials. Did he just call me an impatient lobster? Okay, true. Oh my god, wait! Wait, this is perfect! I actually needed bamboo! Oh my god, yes, thank you. I am a lobster, but I love it. Now, this bamboo was actually perfect because I was just starting to finish up the build for Lolly's Sushi Restaurant. I ended up going with a nice cozy kitchen and indoor dining area that also led into an outdoor seating area where you have the lower tables and an ocean view. The thing that I thought would finish it off nicely though was just some bamboo around the entrance to the restaurant that partitioned it off. I'll be posting a dedicated video on how I built it and the process for that in the future, and overall, I was super happy with it. To make things even better, the following day, I dug up my last couple gyroids and finally completed the creepy gyroid room. What an absolute masterpiece. I still had one final finishing touch that would really cap this whole thing off, but for now, I'm gonna keep that a secret until the end of the video. With that finished, I continued working on the rainbow flower design around Town Hall, which was already looking lovely, but there were still a bunch of colors I didn't have yet. Thankfully, I had all the flower types, so it was really a matter of growing the colors I needed, so I set up some hybrid patches and watered them all up in the hopes of getting them. For once though, the highlight of the day was actually talking to Tammy. Something I wanted to bug you about. Oh, yes! Oh my gosh, okay. I love it here. I also want to check out other islands. It's okay. I understand. We don't want you here anyway. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh my god, we're gonna go. Oh, our last dreamy. I could actually cry. I'm actually so genuinely excited. What the heck? Bye, Tammy. With Tammy finally leaving the island, I continued working on my flower project, just feeling so incredibly happy. Like nothing could dampen my mood. This positivity continued into the next day when Lucky requested a new greeting, and I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but for some reason the best thing I could come up with was, well, yoink my doodlies. So that's a thing I have done. Excited to see that in the future. With new flowers on the way and Tammy P. Bear out of the way and the words yoink my doodlies somewhere in the code of this game file. I was feeling incredible, so I figured I'd dress up as one. I met up with Lucky the next day. Oh no. And it was quickly confirmed that his new greeting was in fact a bad choice. Like, who thought of that? Bad idea. It was still a very exciting day though, because with Tammy gone, I was about to embark on our final dreamy hunt on Quinoa. For which villager, you may ask? Well, for my final dreamy, I actually let you guys choose, setting up a bracket and determining the winner through polls, which I streamed here on YouTube. I'm gonna be making a separate video for that dreamy hunt, so if you want to see who we choose, you should definitely go check that out. After 169 Nook Mile tickets and equally as many tiers, I'm disappointed to say that I was unable to find our dreamy. Even more disappointing still, I found out the next day that Stitches had autofilled as my new villager. And like, I know it could have been worse, but I was still extremely upset about not getting the villager that we wanted. In the wake of my failed dreamy hunt, I decided to take my mind off things and do some decorating. As I'd mentioned before, there were still a couple empty areas around the island that needed work, and one of those areas was the outside of the museum. I customized some stands and displayed some fossils, but it still felt unfinished until I had the idea of turning it into the King Tut exhibit. My family and I went to New York when I was like 11 to see it, and it was so freaking cool and also one of my favorite memories, so it just felt right to permanently capture that on Quinoa. As part of this installation, I decided to make my first pro design, a face hole cutout of King Tut. I was really proud of how this guy came out, and with all the gold I'd been collecting, I crafted a coffin, a mask, and a couple organ jars, ending the day how any museum curator would, by running around wearing the King Tut mask and tripping on my face. Stitches had moved in the next day, so I gave him the old Quinoa welcome. In all seriousness though, I desperately want to get rid of Stitches to get our dreamy hunt going again, but I've heard that it's virtually impossible to kick out your most recently moved in villager, so my hopes and dreams were dashed unless I could find some way around this. Despite how disappointed I was, there was still work to do on the island. Although a decent chunk of Quinoa was now decorated, there were still some empty areas, specifically this spot by the ocean, so I placed down some paths and this blue striped lighthouse I customized, along with some of these binocular viewing things. I was pretty happy with this little lighthouse point. I just need to add some fences and such in the future, but it came out pretty cute. And just like that, it was the final day of our 8th month on Quinoa, and in our last moments, I walked in on Doc doing his business on the toilet. Totally my bad. I took this as a good omen and prayed for his portrait after giving him probably like the 50th iron wall lamp, but unfortunately, all I got in return was a sweater. It honestly seems like Doc and I were just trading uncomfortable moments together, because as I was getting dressed, he barged in, gave me a peach, and started going hammy on the wooden fish. Truly an artist. Well, that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for Stitches. Stitches, do you mind? Get out of the shot, please, and also my island. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you here, and it means a lot to me. And to officially end us off for today, I decided to add the finishing touch to the creepy gyroid room and just let you experience the magic. So without further ado, I will see you guys next time, and enjoy the show.